All right. Uh, Good evening, everyone. My name is Prasad Jaradi. I am your MC, and I am a social entrepreneur by heart and doing some environmental work since a couple of decades here and there. But 5 years ago, I got serious in fixing environmental problem. I deal with a few things. I'm also a founder and chief facilitator of an organization called Suraksha. We are global. The fun part here is we are all volunteer-run organization, and we have educational programs. We are involved in innovation and entrepreneurship, and we also helping technology commercialization, so on and so forth. So I don't take much time. And today is to mark World Environment Day, and some of our eminent speakers might be talking about that. So I don't want to go in detail of the World Environment Day, but the origin is around 1972 in Sweden. Through UN divisions, and it has been standardized since 1974. So let's get started. We have Dr. Babu Rao joined us. So, um, Dr. Babu Rao, can you hear us, sir? Hello? Okay, just in the interest of time, let's go ahead with Sagar Dhara, sir. Sagar Dhara, sir, got IIT Mumbai BTech Mechanical Engineering degree. He is an environmentalist and worked as an environmental engineer as well. He is avid researcher, writer in energetics of human society. He involved in committees on environment at the national level and, of course, in the international level as well. Sagar sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah,
Please take it
thank
away.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I like to introduce myself a little different. I suppose we're speaking in English and not in
Yes,
Telugu
yes,
or Hindi
yes,
or something. Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I like to introduce myself a little differently, and I will explain why. I've had even my book authorships. I've had to fight with them. I say that I'm a male. I'm an upper caste, upper class. That I am a city slicker, and I'm college educated, and I belong to the most predatory species that ever existed on Earth. That's humans. I don't think it matters where one studied or all these kind of things are now. I don't think that they're passe, because what matters is really where are we planning to go and what are we doing about it. That's the only thing that matters. I'm going to make some 4 or 5 very quick points. I think we're doomed, and we are thieves, all of us, humans. Okay. The point is, either we can say, all right, let's forget about it since we're doomed anyway. The sixth mass extinction is underway, so let's forget about it, enjoy life, and we all go away. That's it. Or we fight. And I've chosen to do the latter, knowing full well that things are very gloomy at the moment because we have 3 problems. One is, and these are all, each one of them is a tipping point. One is basically goes by the word peak oil, which means we are running out of resources, and that's a very serious problem. It has been underplayed. It has not been recognized enough. We are running out of fossil fuels. We don't really have alternatives. We're running out of a lot of other non-renewable materials. Problem number one. Problem number two, we put out too much greenhouse gas, and therefore climate change is underway. And we're supposed to more or less halve our emissions by 2030, but we are nowhere there. In fact, our emissions are going to be in 2030 roughly what they were in 2020. So we're not really solving that problem. And the third problem is a galloping inequality, a global inequality, which is growing both between nations and within nations, particularly in India. Okay, so India, let me talk about it very briefly. We're caught between what one can call the sea, the deep sea, and a big ditch on the other side. So India wants to develop. It's in a very peculiar category of countries, along with China and Brazil and South Africa. It wants to develop, um, has probably some of the potential to develop. The problem is that it can only develop if it uses energy. Now, the main energy that India has used is fossil fuels. It has huge reserves of coal. And if it continues to use that, what it will do is basically, being the fourth largest emitter after the European Union, it in a sense will, axe its own feet, because it will add to the emissions, and that problem is going to hit India very badly, because the Indian subcontinent is one of the two most vulnerable regions to climate change impacts. So India will see not just sea rise. Calcutta by 2100 will, sea rise. Calcutta will probably go under. Um, Parts of Bombay where I stayed are going to go under the sea. We modeled these things. Heat stress, and then floods, and then you name it, and it's all there. I've written a fair amount about these things. So India is really going to suffer. On the other hand, it aspires to become a developed world, and it can only do that if the developed world, in fact, gives up some of its carbon space, and that carbon space is just not available, because there is just about another 500 gigatons, and if the West gives up that entire carbon space to, let's say, the developing world, we still will be nowhere close to the development levels of Europe or Northern America. So we are between the devil and the deep sea. We aspire to develop, we can't really do it. And if we try to develop, if we don't develop, if we give up those energy resources, then we will remain, permanently backward. Now, India's GDP is about $2,700, $2,800 per capita per annum, whereas the northern countries have, on average, per capita GDP of about $45,000 per annum. Yet India has no chance of catching up. So India is really between the devil and the deep sea. Now, what are the pledges that India has made? It has made 4 pledges in the COP. The first is, it says that we will reduce emissions, our emission intensity by 45%. That's easy to do. It's a low-hanging fruit. The second thing that India says that it will do is basically up its renewable energy generation capacity to 50%. It can do it, but is that going to help? I don't think it's going to really help in terms of either the development or in terms of emissions. The third thing, it says that it will reduce its cumulative uh, emissions by 2.5 to 3 gigatons by adding additional forest. It can probably do it over a 10-year period, but that's not really going to help very much. And the last is, it says that it will become carbon neutral by 2070. The problem is, it can, that will work provided somebody in Europe or in Northern America gives up uh, that amount of carbon space, for India to become carbon neutral by 2070. Nobody in Europe or Northern America seems to be willing to do that. We've looked at all these figures quite carefully. And so it's not going to really work out. That if India says they're going to become carbon neutral by 2070, they are going to emit more along with the other countries. And well, the world as a whole is headed towards not 1.5 or 2 degrees warming, but is headed to something like 3 degrees or even over that kind of warming. So the West is primarily responsible for this problem, except that they're not willing to accept it. They have put out 65% of the cumulative emissions, and their current population is only 16%. And it's not as if they didn't know about it. This problem has been known for more than 100 years. And repeatedly, several scientists have written about it from time to time. They've done research, written about it. It's just that the West didn't care a damn. The Maldives is going down completely. Why does the West care? The Maldives, cumulative emissions is less than 0.01%. But all their islands are going down. Their entire population of 500,000 people is is either they'll have to jump to the sea or they will have to find some refuge in India, Sri Lanka, or Australia. So this is where we are right now. So what do we do? I mean, there are two things that need to be done globally. One is quite obviously to reduce our total power consumption, and the second is to basically bring in energy equality. Now, neither of these is really being done at the moment. Um, and it's become a rat race. And if it's a rat race, well, India says is basically India says, listen, climate justice. This is what its argument is in the COPs, that if you burn fossil fuels and developed your country, then why shouldn't we do it? Isn't that climate justice? Okay, and really, the West doesn't have an answer to this question. Okay, that India has asked. But if India does that, what happens to India itself is something that India doesn't consider. However, India doesn't ask the same question of itself, that what happens, I mean, what are the emissions of the poor versus the emissions of the rich? Is the differential in, something like 1,000 times? I mean, the average emissions of India, per capita emissions, is 1.8 ton per person per annum. Now, the rich in India could well be emitting something like about 200 to 500 tons per annum, quite similar to the rich in America or Europe. And the poor, the tribals, could be emitting something like about 0.1 ton. So there is a double standard going on out there. Now, the only solution that I find in all this, and there's no real workable political solution at the moment, the only solution that I find is a very impossible dream. That is that the governments have not been able to solve this problem in the COPs, and I have attended the COPs and seen, what really happens out there. And it is now for the people to stand up and say, now it is for us to solve the problem. Major issues, social changes have never been brought about by governments. If you look at the last century, there have been four major movements. One is the anti-colonial movement. The second is the anti-capitalist movement. The third is the gender equality movement. That includes the LGBTQ movement. And the fourth is the civil rights movement. None of these movements have been done by governments. They've been done by people. Now, the whole environmental problem, which is the overuse of nature, basically is not just a problem of equality, because you have to bring in equality if you want to solve the environmental problem. It's a question of not just equality between people, but it's also a question of equality between generations, and possibly, as one element talks about this whole thing, also equity between species. Now, the minute you start about talking about equity between species, a whole lot of questions come into play, like what happens to theory of value, and so on and so forth. It just fails. So there are a huge set of problems, and the only way that these problems can be solved is if the people of the entire world come together and try to solve this problem. That's a very big if. Now, you could well ask me, is there a pathway or is there a process by which the people of the world can come together? I say, I don't know, but nobody else knows either how to do this thing right now. Okay? The only thing is we have to talk very loudly, and we have to tell our governments that, listen, you cooperate or perish or get lost. That is the kind of stand that we will have to take. Having said this, I will stop here because I think I may have just about exceeded my time. And maybe if there are question answers, we can take them up later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sagar, for your insights. Now, that one thing that scares me also, that is energy poverty that we may face in India, right? We're leaping onto big things where we are still running on coal. Of course, I admit from West, being a citizen of US, that we did a lot of stupid stuff, and now we are trying to correct. And last year election was fought actually on that. I'm not saying it is perfect, but again, we are trying hard to put money and try to do something, at least from our end, clean our acts, and also preach the other countries acting rightfully from our side. So there are a lot of politics involved here. We are trying to push everybody to the middle and take care of these issues. Otherwise, we are all going to suffer no matter where we are at. So and sea level rise and everything else, especially India having 25 plus cities among 30 highly polluted cities in the world scares hell out of me also. So this, we are talking about 140 billion people plus. So it is not going to be easy. So we have to navigate all these issues very efficiently, working with individual life like yourself. I'm so blessed to have three frontline warriors on environment from India, especially from Hyderabad region to begin with. This is wonderful, folks, and we have been, having other folks like Mohan Raidu Garu, who are also very eminent, and young AI scientist Siddharth also joining us to give his ideas on how we can steer or navigate this time in particular. I would like to go with Dr. Babura Garu, if possible. Babura Garu,
No,
can you hear us?
if you don't mind, I have a small question to ask you.
Sure.
Okay. Like, our prediction is that about 20% of Bangladesh will be under the sea by 2100, the whole of the Sundarbans area. It's going to generate about 10 million climate refugees. No, sorry, 100 million climate refugees.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, climate justice basically means that those countries who cause this problem take responsibility and make restitution for this. Is America willing to take these Bangladeshi refugees? Because it's America that caused this problem, and Europe. Are you willing to fight for that?
Yeah, let me address that one during our Q&A as a first question. Please bear with me until I come back on that. Thank you so much for the great question. We all owe an answer for that. Thank you. Dr. Babura, are you ready, sir? Floor is yours.
Yeah, if others are talking, let them talk, because I came in late because I lost power.
No
Just
problem.
after
We're
got
all in this
admitted, I
together.
lost power. And
Yeah,
it
in
took
the interest
time
of
for me.
time, let's go ahead with you, sir. I would do a brief introduction. Actually, Dr. Babura Garu asked me to introduce him as environmentalist. So nice of him. He is very simple in everything. And but I want to take the privilege of MC. And actually, Dr. Babura Garu is an IICT scientist and environmentalist with a degree of IIT Chennai, if I am correct. He is in the front lines as well to defend victims from pollution and he is also on several committees involved in Human Rights Commission, and he is also a regular speaker like Sagar sir in media channels about pollution issues caused by the industry and of course industrialists and rich people. The floor is yours, Dr. Babura. Please take it away.
Thank you, Prasad Garu. And just after our friend Sagar, the things are pretty gloomy, as he said. I don't know, many times I also face this problem. We go to tell the people about what are the problems we are facing, what are the solutions we can give, nothing. That's the whole problem, because today also we went to talk to the students. There also, there are problems we can tell them, but what are the solutions for these problems? So now this is a short time we have. I don't want to waste that just on loudly thinking. Let us say that what is the root cause for us to face these problems? Let us look back. Today's theme actually for the World Environment Day is land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. As a child, I was brought up in a rural environment, and we saw I lived among the farming families, and there was no problem with land because entire agriculture was done by manpower and animal power only. There was hardly any chemical agriculture in our childhood. There was no mechanization also of agriculture at that time. So there was no problem of, and also we belong to a delta area. Delta areas, the soil is quite thick. It is quite meters thick. So in areas where soil is only top layer of 1 inch or 2 inches, the erosion effects are much, much higher. But fortunately for us in that area, we didn't have. But even in those areas now, because the soil is full of chemicals, pesticides and fertilizers, their productivity is gone. They are not able to produce like in the past. You have to fill a lot of chemical fertilizer. So all this culture is become because earlier agriculture was thought as a subsistence. We were not trying to make big money on agriculture. Everybody is well fed and taken care. But today, agriculture has to compete with the market, and it cannot. Now inputs, everything input is coming from the market, and there is no price for the farmer produce, food production particularly, either vegetables or anything, the farmer gets nothing. So under these circumstances, so what is it we as urbanites can do to improve this land situation? Can we do anything about it? Normally, everybody talks about planting trees and avoiding plastic, etc. Can these be solutions to those problems at the rural level, to the rural economy? They're not. So that such problems are there. Most of the environmentalism is suffering from disconnection to the actual problems. Only it becomes only a talk and the circles, but it's not directly related to the ground realities. Coming to this general environmentalism, what is the problem we face today is that we have separated from nature. That is what many scientists have been talking about. In the process, we have forgotten that we are a product of nature and we have to follow the laws of nature. Professor Tom Murphy of UC Berkeley, he writes a very interesting paragraph. He says, I can read that. It's a simple thing. Anyway, he says the nature follows the physical law, and physics doesn't enforce its laws. It is automatically taken care. Natural courses take care. You don't need an enforcing agency like a police, or you don't need any court like to take judiciary steps, etc. That's not necessary. But whereas whatever we do, humans as a civilization, we need all these systems and establishment, and yet we don't value any of these laws or social laws. So I think my time is exceeding. So first of all, let us consider ourselves lucky to have been living in a best of the times in the world. So now we have to, particularly our generation, we are reaching our end of the period. So for what do we do for the younger generation? Now it is a fight only. There's no other choice except to fight because the political reality. In India, we had elections just now. Now everybody is looking for who will be the prime minister, but nobody is bothered about what will happen to this country, to the people, and about climate. We go to the international conferences and then make big promises. Who will do that net zero? We are not cutting down the emissions. So none of the political parties have raised that issue particularly in their manifestos. All these problems are there. This can be changed only when people really care about the environment, not just only talk on these particular days. We have to have a major mass movement in the country, like they had in the United States on the first Earth Day, where 20 million people gathered in the streets and places. So can we have such a mass movement in India at this time? Then things can change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Babu Rao Garu, for your great points. This is actually giving an opportunity for all of us as a civilization to think about where we are at and how do we deal with these things. Even though there is a lot of negativity in how we get in there, I know it's practically impossible in several cases. So we all have to do that. So one thing I wanted to do is also come with an angle of innovation and entrepreneurship where we can see some solutions, right? Now, traditionally, the India story I share in West is we are worshippers of Panchabhutas. That's where we started. And somewhere along we lost in transition, and we need to bring back that thing to the youth also. There is so much going on that that youth do not know even. today. So that's how we can help those guys to be educated and come around and take a different look at innovation, entrepreneurship, how we work, how we live, how we eat, and how we breathe included, and also taking care of other animals that we must have, because that would be a perfect ecosystem. Thank you so much again for your contribution today. Next up is Madhulika Chowdhury. She is founder and CEO of Dhruvansh, a non-profit organization based out of Hyderabad. She is known as Queen of Lakes in India, and she has done incredible work by bringing awareness and got in action to clean many lakes in and around Hyderabad and beyond. Madhulika, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Voice.
Madhulika,
Voice.
Yes, sir. I'm audible.
Yeah. Audible.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir. Thanks for giving opportunity, and it's a really pleasure to see the Babu Rao sir and Sagar Dhara sir, because actually I have heard and read a lot about both of you, and this is my really I'm really, I mean, I would say that today is the day you people have made my day that I'm getting an opportunity to speak in front of you, and this is blessings. So this my journey, because I have a short of time, so obviously the lakes and the all these things started. It was a lake which is very near to me, and still I am actually maintaining it. So okay, you can say that I have restored the lakes in a longer period, but I still feel that I'm just trying to restore one lake, Neknampur Lake, and still I'm working from last 8 years to understand that how exactly the lake works. And the lake is not a standalone entity, right? It depends on, so it is actually dependent on many parameters, not only just water parameters, but human oriented parameters and many things. So before, like what you people have discussed, sir, I have done my computer engineering, and I worked in computers for 10 years. My parents were, sir, a scientist in Siri Pilani. You can say I am a product of CSIR, and I have seen many scientists, many science labs from throughout the India. And somewhere I realized when I was in the growing years that the research which is happening and the implementations which is needed on the ground level has a lot of communication gap, or a implementation gap. So those were, and then during my studies also I have done some projects where I again realized that every year we have a good amount of the research papers, but somewhere the implementation is not that much successful on the ground level. Then there are many things which is going in transition period, and further it was, though I have done the computer engineering, but I have an influence of my parents, and I decided to start this particular NGO. And it is more like I actually research kind of thing, which I really love to do, to know about it, right? When you're doing the research, you have to monitor everything. You should have a lot of patience, and then you have to continuously do the analysis. So the Neknampur Lake is the first lake, and still I tell that that is the lab, because I'm not only I'm restoring it but maintaining it also. And I really feel that in okay, we have a good amount of the number, but I do not want to go with the number, because I myself not satisfied that the number game in the restoration of lakes really work. It's actually the sustainable restoration which is still lacking, and I am trying to work over that. So these are my, and with the bioenzyme, with the floating treatment wetlands, and with the problems of the garbage. And again, we do not have a places for the constructed to just create a constructed wetland or work on the inlet. So every lake, if you see in the Hyderabad, especially in the urban areas, right? It's a typically left with a design of hardly any restoration you can do, especially the nature-based solutions. And then you do not have a place to create the conventional STP. So slowly, actually, I realized that there are many challenges. What on the surface level they are told, and what exactly on the ground level are happening, right? So and then I really find out good amount of the invasive species, right, and how the people are caring. And the again problem which our cities is now suffering is more about the Instagram and the WhatsApp, right? So people are very happy to work or to volunteer on the Instagram and the WhatsApp rather than coming on the ground level. So as you people are continuously saying, observing, my observations are more or less the same, that yes, the ground level, nobody is interested to work, right? But yes, talking under an AC areas or in big conferences, people are more interested and satisfy themselves that okay, we have done for the restoration and we have done for the environment by doing a 3 days workshop on a environment perspective. So this is something which is more happening comparatively on the ground level. Apart from that, if we talk about the lakes in India, so lakes in India is not only just a water body, right? We the lakes at India means the festivals, right? And then you have everything, I mean, starting and ending. The good thing about it, when the festivals created, it was again to bring the community involvement with the water, to create a kind of respect for the water. But again, with the time, we have realized that the respect is somewhere totally absent. And now just we have the water where people actually find out that they need a place only to have the golgappas and ice creams. They don't want to in fact accept that this is a place can be a biodiversity or something like that. And I have seen a lot of projects of the lake restoration where there is no concept of the biodiversity, right? So they are more interested to do the walkway and beautification, lake front, which we now call it as. So such kind of the things are going on. And yes, since this is again a new estate, so real estate is very powerful here. So I have a lot of fights with the real estate also, and government was also not that much devoted to actually revive or restore the lakes, right? Because the lake lands are very heavy. So when we are talking about the lakes, right, somewhere the water, sewage, garbage, they are taking the back seat, and there are many other things which are taking the front seat, which should not be like that. But yes, it is happening. Telangana is the only state where the lakes are half patta land and half government land. Otherwise, in many other states, like if you go to the Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, the lakes are completely government water bodies. But in Hyderabad, it is not the case. So in those situations, how to actually come and to give a restoration. So I have a very long observations. I've seen how the buildings are created and their basements are created even the deeper than the depth of the lake, and how they are receiving the water throughout the year. So many things which are actually even not noted in our policies. And when we talk about the lake restoration, it is only the GO 168, right? We never talk about Biodiversity Act, Environmental Act, Volta Act while doing the lake restoration. If you go a government and the lake is in a very bad condition and your Environment Act is not working, so they are not at all concerned. It's the GO 168 building rule and regulation which is actually prevailing while protecting the lake. So many of, and then we do not have a lake act, not in the state, even not at the center also. So in those conditions, it is very difficult for me to do a simple research sometimes, because I don't have to do, not only I have to work on the research work, but I have to actually work with many other issues also just to protect that lake. And definitely the government and the community both are still not interested to protect the lake. That is also one thing which I'm really finding out, because we have such kind of a kind of the mindset that okay, I'm not going to stay in Hyderabad for a longer period of time, right? A kind of the migration mindset, you can say, right? I have to go on site, or I have to go in the north or in the Bangalore. So why should I take pain for the lakes, right? So in fact, in the Bangalore also, like now the Bangalore is out of the water, though it's also a city of lakes, but still it is out of the water. But there is no learning lesson to learn. Nobody is ready to learn any kind of the lesson. I have literally realized, whether it's a floods or just now I'm traveling and I'm seeing that the roads have become new lakes here in the Hyderabad, and the lakes are not receiving any water. So in those situations, I would like to finish with this, that yes, that we need more people in this particular sector, and we need to understand that what the present generation needs, right? So what is the generation of the environment, or what is the requirement of the environment at present? Sometimes I really say that books are the experience of others. We need to actually create some new books to actually deal with present situations. So my earth, my responsibility. That is how I'm trying. I'm trying to involve the community to understand how we can work better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madhulika, for your great insights on the way how we are living in urban areas nowadays, and how we have to deal with that. You know, the encroachments are always mind-boggling, and unfortunately, politicians and others are in a strange involvement in that kind of things. You know, I look at development in a different direction with my own experience. I live closer to Houston area when there are hurricanes. Even though Houston is the richest city in US, it is not able to prevent herself from the wrath of hurricanes. You know, the water would accumulate up to 30 meters or above in some of the areas where they touch or overflow on the on these, you know, speedways sometimes, and also on the bridges that they built. You know, we call them as flyovers, right? So that is the mess that we got into. Unfortunately, all chemicals, you know, including our car oil, mix up into the water, and it is seeping into the water bodies, getting into the water bodies. And of course, if there is any soil left out in that region, soil is also getting that pollution. So we are literally drinking pollution in those days. There is no specific system that would filter out all these contaminants, and that is not a good thing for humans and animals together. Thanks again for your contribution today. And I just got a message from Rajesh Adla, sir. He said that he is stuck in a meeting with minister. I hope in return he would mention to the minister not to do too much harm to the environment, at least beginning with Hyderabad city. So that's my humble request to him, since we lost him for this occasion. Moving on, we have K. Mohan Naidu Garu next up as an eminent speaker here. A brief introduction about him. He is chairman of ICT Committee, International Chamber of Commerce, and he is CEO of Informatics in India. He works with forums for India 4.0, AI for agriculture, AI for healthcare, blockchain, etc. He was president of Internet Society of India and convener of e-governance, and he is also a former president of Rotary Club in Secunderabad. Thank you so much for joining us, Mohan Naidu Garu. This is a pleasure for us to hear from you. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad Garu. Dear Sri Prasad Jaladi Garu, eminent speakers, and my friends in the audience, my greetings to all of you on the occasion of World Environment Day. As Dr. Prasad said, I'm in the field of software for over 40 years. I belong to the I started my career from the first generation computers. And now, as we said, I'm associated with few organizations like FTCCA, Federation of Telangana Chambers of Commerce and Industries. Earlier, it was called FAPSI. After the state bifurcation, it's called FTCCA. There, I am the chair of the ICT Committee, Information and Communication Technologies, for past Internet Society, Hyderabad chapter. And, you know, in these things, we do a lot of activities. Also with the academic institutions, universities and colleges. So coming back to the today's program, I thank Dr. Prasad for inviting me to speak on this World Environment Day celebrations of Suraksha. Before that, I wanted to say, Dr. Babu Rao Garu, I learned Fortran from Dr. Asghar Hussain of RR Labs. You may be knowing, he must be, you must have worked along with him.
He was our head for some time.
Okay.
He was our head
he
of the
taught-
division. I know. Yeah. Hello?
Yes, please.
He's no more now.
Acha, acha. Okay.
He's no more now. He died about a few years back.
Oh,
He lived up to 94 or 95 years.
oh, great. He was a very good teacher, a scientist also. Actually, he was a big inspiration for me to get into this software field. He said he is basically a scientist, but he showed interest in computers. So because of his interest, he switched to computer field. Then I thought, when he's doing that, why not I also do it? And then, though I'm not an engineer, I took up this career and did this. And the directorate Informatics India, a software development company at head.
You worked on 1620
And,
IBM at that time?
Today, I'll be speaking on the land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience, which is the theme of today's this year's and also a bit about a project called My Tree Foundation on it's an environmental social enterprise that I'm working on. Now let's look at few terms. The land restoration. What is land restoration? It's the process of ecological restoration to improve the health and the productivity of degraded land. That's land restoration. And desertification, the degradation of land in arid and semi-arid areas resulting from the various factors, including climatic variations and human activities. This is called desertification. This is what happens in desertification. Drought resilience, the capacity of a system to absorb and recover from the drought impacts. So what's the relevance of these things? It's very critical for sustainable development, biodiversity, and climatic change mitigation. Why this happens, this degradation and desertification? What are the causes? There are two things. One is the natural factors, other is human factors. Natural factors are the climate change, increased temperatures, and altered precipitation patterns, soil erosion by wind, strong winds of windstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes, and also from the heavy floods, cyclones, and typhoons. So these are the natural factors that influence the land degradation and desertification. Then what are the human factors? Deforestation, cutting down trees without adequate reforestation. The amount of cutting that's happening, even after so much of digitalization, the paper requirement is increasing day by day. And then for that they are cutting the trees, and also for the for future, like the housing activities. Today I think housing is the prime factor in the economic development. No production is happening, not much production is happening, but only house construction is happening. So for that also they need lots of wood, so they're cutting the trees. Then unsustainable agriculture practices, overuse of chemical fertilizers and monocropping. This is another big headache, because to increase the production, to increase the yields, they are using chemical fertilizers left and right. So then the monocropping also is another factor. urbanization, expansion of urban areas into rural land. See, so much of conversion is happening. The agricultural lands are being converted into uh, housing and other construction activities. So this urbanization also is eroding the lands, rural lands. What are the impacts of desertification and land degradation? Environmental impacts, socio-economic impacts. Environmentally, loss of biodiversity, reduction in soil fertility, disruption of water cycles. These are the environmental impacts. And socio-economic impacts, food insecurity, increased poverty, migration and displacement of communities, increased conflict over resources. These are the problems of the this effects of the deforestation. So then land restoration strategies. What are the strategies for land restoration? Reforestation and afforestation should be taken up in a large scale. Planting trees to restore forest cover. Benefits benefits are the improved air quality, increased biodiversity, and enhanced carbon sequestration. Sustainable agriculture practices also. Crop rotation should be there instead of the mono methods. Crop rotation, agroforestry, and conservation of tillage. Conservation tillage. Use of organic fertilizers and integrated pest management should be adopted. Then also we have the soil conservation techniques, terracing, contour plowing, and use of windbreaks. Then improved water retention. Then we have the another method is water management. Rainwater harvesting, drip irrigation, and the construction of check dams and the other catchments. So these are some of the restoration strategies. Case studies. I'll mention a couple of case studies. The Great Green Wall Initiative of Africa aimed at restoring 100 million hectares of degraded land across 20 countries in Africa. That was a good case study. Then we have Lost Plateau, China, large-scale land restoration project, transforming a barren area into productive land. Techniques used are terracing, reforestation, and sustainable agriculture. These were the strategies. Then call to action. Individual level also we have, and we have to do the certain activities. Adopting sustainable practices in daily life, supporting and participating in local restoration projects. This is at the individual level. And the community level, we need to engage in community-based conservation and restoration initiatives. Then next is educating others about the importance of land restoration. At the policy level, advocating for the policies that promote sustainable land management and conservation, supporting integration and agreements and collaborations. This is the policy level from the governments. So we have the points like the importance of addressing land degradation, desertification, and drought resilience. So what this has been the importance what we discussed. Effective strategies and successful case studies, and collective responsibility of individual communities and governments. This is what we have discussed just now. So that's about the topic of land restoration, desertification, and the drought resilience. So then I said, I want to talk to you about a project called My Tree Foundation. It's an environment social enterprise. Every year, governments, everywhere, they plant so many saplings, lakhs and crores, and then they go on doing it every year as a duty. But how many are sustained? Very, very negligible. Every year they do, but we don't see an increase in the trees. So this is because they are not taken care properly. Once they do the sapling, when they plant a sapling, it has to be taken care, and it should grow as a tree. But it's not happening. That is because there's no care given to the plant. Who has to give the care? A government employee will not be there. He just goes back to his duty. Or that's why we started this My Tree Foundation, wherein a person can own a tree. He can plant. He'll be given a location and a plant, and he has to take care of that plant. And his name will be there. He will own the tree for his lifetime. So that is my tree. So you have a tree for yourself. So you have to take care of that tree. So in this process, we are identifying the locations, and then the saplings, the varieties, and then the bringing up methods, and all that. For all these things, we need manpower. We are working on it. And for those who cannot take care of this plant or the tree, we are devising a method by which they can pay for it and then still own it. In that method, we are working on this My Tree Foundation program. Thank you, Dr. Prasad.
Thank you so much, sir. You have made several valid points, and I like the way how you connected My Tree and My Tree. You built a bridge between West and East kind of stuff. Amalgaming both English word and Telugu word, and I really like the concept. Besides whatever you have said on how we protect the land, so on and so forth. Great insights, and we would like to learn from you on your project. Please send me over some information so that we can spread the message. In my mind, it's not just planting the trees, and it takes 7 years to grow, and we need to take care of so many things, from the people, animals, and also industrialists who throw a lot of stuff onto trees, and of course governments themselves cutting up these trees, right? So especially my heart breaks when our political meetings happen, they are chopping up trees indiscriminately. So that's something a no for me also. So we all have to join our hands in that thing, and we need to change the way how we behave, starting from home to begin with. Thank you. We have Siddharth Pillai. Let me introduce him briefly about his work. He is the youngest AI scientist in South Asia. He is in second year intermediate. He already worked with IIT Hyderabad, Government of Telangana. He is also our brand ambassador in India. And together we have developed a web app to find out environmental conditions anywhere in the world. You could go to suraksha.org, and you can find a tab on top with the name Enviro Suraksha. You can go there and you can find your environmental conditions. And of course, if you are curious about knowing how the things in your neighborhood, maybe in a different country, there is no limit. So you could get that information for free. And please join hands with us in providing this data and saving people first, and then add some other things strategically so that we can work with experts like we have today, frontline people who are trying to save us all on our behalf around the world. so that we can come up with some ideas. Otherwise, it's just a talk, and we'll be talking forever on that mode. So that's a big change from our end, and this also showcases Suraksha's ability to involve volunteers, and we are not taking any money from anybody other than small donations. We want to test our ability to bring in impact rather than the accounting thing, right? So money is important, but again, I think somewhere along we also lost a fabric of supporting the communities from all angles. So I know everybody is busy, but again, we got to do these things, reminding everybody that we are part of community, and we are living in an environment. In fact, we need environment rather than environment needs us. So with that, I would like Siddharth to take the forum, and say a few things about his
Uh,
work and our work together. Thank you.
oh yeah,
Welcome,
thank you.
Siddharth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. I mean, thank you, Prasad. I mean, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Siddharth Peri. I'm currently 16 years old, and yeah, I'm sort of recognized as the Asia's youngest data scientist right now for bagging the job role of a data scientist when I was 12 years old. And yeah, I mean, I'm also sort of working with IIT Hyderabad right now as a machine learning engineer, which have been recently selected as. So I'm also working on many sustainable city projects, one being Enviro Suraksha. Like Prasad Zaradi sir has said, I'm sort of working on Enviro Suraksha right now, where by providing your location and a bunch of details about your neighborhood, it'll give you a complete list of environmental analytics about maybe how what exactly is the air quality next levels of your neighborhood, and what could be the livability. I mean, how exactly is the weather, how exactly is the climate, and how livable is that place for your needs. So that's sort of what I have developed with Endo Suraksha. And yeah, I mean, I mean, I'll just sort of guide you on about introspection, what it means, and what I'm thinking would be, like my future, future collaborations or future projections with Prasad Jaladi sir as my collaboration. Uh, right now, like I mentioned, Envirosuraksha does like few basic things where it provides some analytics based on the neighborhood and the location. Uh, we're also in a sense of trying to maybe add in more sets of data, features, and all, so it can understand location better and give you more insights on maybe on various factors like the water quality out there, maybe things in regards to earthquake, and also those are the kind of features we're also thinking to add. Yeah, other than that, I guess the involved environment, I think it's really crucial for us to take in the amount of environment right now, because yeah, it is a crucial day. And of course, as we grow the CO2 emissions and the global warming emissions are increasing day by day. And it's really sad to see that. And but I would say there is an option where technologies like AI and machine learning could help. Maybe like Envirosuraksha, the app which we are building right now, or many more to come. But I definitely think with the right sets and sources of data, there's definitely some ongoing solution that can not possibly stop something like a global warming or the climate change factors, but at least raise awareness and create raise awareness and create any solutions that can help people reduce it. Recently, what I have seen is that there's sort of this AI, sort of an AI design encountered building where they use these sort of AI tiles, kind of like a painted tiles, to change their colors from a certain black to certain white. Normally, black is of course it absorbs light very efficiently, whereas white can reflect the sources out bright as well. So they did this hardware thing where they based on understanding what the climate is, the climate, the temperature, and all, they made like AI shifted tiles for it. So they can capture the whole uh, sunlight more efficiently, and there is some sort of reduction of carbon footprint right there. Or maybe these days on people trying to move more into vehicles like EV and all. Even the EV does have its own disadvantages of like manufacturing of lithium batteries and all. Some good sources are things like EV vehicles and all. And people these days are also trying to say, or also building like environmental friendly Bitcoin mines where they use completed solar power or wind turbines to run Bitcoin mines to generate bunch of profits as well. So as it is possible that technology already is helping a lot out where and maybe the problems in the field of environment could be decreased also. I think there are far more to come, and hopefully with the right set of innovations, uh, climate change and global warming could be reduced in the near future. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for covering me up on so many things that we are up to in terms of build up to our Enviro Suraksha app and beyond. This is a great discussion, and I would like to open the floor for question and answer. If you have some time, I think we are running out of time as well. We are already late, but I would take responsibility for some glitches and non-stop of some speakers, so on and so forth. Having said that, I think so far we ran this very smoothly, very eloquent, intelligent discussions. And to start the Q&A, I promised Sagar sir that I would answer this his question first thing in Q&A. Yes, Sagar sir, actually we are trying to influence the government on these things. When I say um, um, when I say that how we do these things, I worked in pharma industry, and India is big on life sciences, and we are doing a lot of medicines for other parts of the world. But I always wear my chemistry lenses, and I look at the impact that they are bringing. Of course, we are having an employment, fortune, so on and so forth, but it has a drag on our environment. So with all these things, I am pushing for 360 degrees approach. Of course, it slows us down like crazy, but it has to be done in a systematic way so that we don't repeat the problems. Yes, Western countries are all developing countries, but again, I want to caution here. Okay, we are giving statements like we would deal with these things until 70. So given the temperatures we have up to 55 degrees nowadays in India, are we trying to slow us so that we figure out a solution for that? I hope that's not the intention of individuals who are following that kind of models and also the government policies. We all need to act fast so that we can pick up the tab wherever it is possible and do right things. There is a lot of learning here, and I would also watch to the other things. Saying that, well, we might be expecting money, but again, money is not coming to the developing countries that easy either. There are so many things. Even at the UN level, who are all promising this big money are not chipping in reality. So we need to deal with all these things. But before something good happens, we have to take care of ourselves. So I want every government official to look into that, every citizen to look into that and solve and take the personal responsibility to solve the local issues. Otherwise, we would be ending up with energy poverty, so on and so forth. So I would stop here, and I would encourage others to add some more to my argument. Thank you. And I guess George has a question. George, please go ahead.
Actually, it's not a question. It's going to be a very quick comment on Environmental Day and as a voice for the ocean. The one thing that every oxygen breather can do that's almost no cost, assuming they breathe oxygen, they probably eat. If they eat, they could compost. Go and do your research, kilogram for kilogram. There is nothing we as individuals can do to help. We're not taking our foot off the gas pedal, burning fossil fuel. Go ask AI what are the 100 biggest problems facing humanity, and 75 of them will be fossil fuel related. Ask then what are the 10 solutions, top 10 solutions we as humans can do, and AI will tell you 9 out of 10, stop burning fossil fuel. So composting pulls the CO2 out. Until we slow down burning fossil fuel, we got to pull the CO2 out. Compost. If we could do, I don't know if it happened in India, but we had a very popular thing in America called Got Milk. We need Got Compost. every person compost, community compost. We can suck the CO2 out. Our biggest challenge is that. So honor to everybody here. It was very interesting. I need to run to my youth meeting at the Explorers Club here in UN. So honor to everybody. And it's great. Thank you, Prasad, for inviting me.
Thank you, George, for your good suggestion. Actually, India traditionally has this big compost programs, and we need to better them, and we need to create robust systems, at least at the urban level. Dr. Leena, please go ahead.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, it was a very wonderful discussion. So I thank you for inviting me to join the session. So especially the Sagar sir, Babu Rao sir, and Madhumita ma'am. And I have a question with Madhumita ma'am. I just wanted to know what is the process you are opting for the rejuvenation of lakes. Can you tell me in brief?
Yeah, Leena ma'am, it's nice. And my name is Madhulika.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry
So
so much.
that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So, ma'am, we like suppose again the lakes are different here, and with the sizes and with the variation of the pollution, right? But in many lakes, if you go in the GHMC, we have 185 lakes, and we do not have, in fact, the buffer zone also.
Okay.
Right, so we are only left with the FTL. So if when we have to work only in the FTL where we do not have a land available, we have actually used the floating treatment wetlands, right, and floating aerators. And yes, we are doing a bioremediation as well, phytoremediation individually as well. So whatever the least land or something is available, I'm trying to put the plants, right, which have a good amount of capability. And then, ma'am, in GHMC Lake means municipality, the main Greater Hyderabad municipality area. So we have a good amount of water hyacinth as well. So now, in these situations where if you divert the sewage, after that also the runoff will be the same equivalent polluted you will get for your lakes. The pollution or the diversion is actually it's just a cost bearing area rather than a successful restoration. In those cases, we create a kind of the runoff treatment all around the lake. That is the first line of the treatment. Then we create the floating treatment wetlands inside the lake. And yes, right. So this is, and wherever we find out that if we have the places, the inlet water is coming up, there also we create some bridges and sedimentation ponds if the space is there, right, and
Okay.
aeration ponds. So it is
Okay.
totally depend on the situation and the area we are getting or not getting it here. But in some cases, yes, the floating treatment wetlands results are very good. What we have reduced, so we are again hitting more towards the BOD and COD, and I'm
Okay.
still not able to create a very high DO because what happens, suppose today if I'm expecting that I have a good results, the very other day somebody empty their septic tank into the lake. So
Oh.
whatever I have tried to remove the water parameters. So in those conditions, yes, it is actually 24 into 365 working, which is actually I'm trying here to remove all those things. But yeah, slowly I'm getting the good results, but it's still not very satisfactory.
Okay. Ma'am, I was just suggesting that here for this remediation of the lakes and all, I am from Delhi, and from Delhi University, they have taken a project and they are just applying for the constructed wetland system, and they are saying that it is very effective. So can it be
Yeah,
done to lakes also?
yeah. Ma'am, I
Yeah.
told we do not have land. You
Okay.
understand that even the
Mm-hmm.
buffer zone, what you call, because lake is the water body, it's a FTL full tank level, and after that
Okay.
30 meters have to be left as a buffer zone, right? But
Okay.
in Hyderabad, you will see the buildings are constructed in the FTL only. So in those
Okay.
situations, yeah. So if you know, we have very big lakes here like Hussain Sagar and Durgam Cheru, and those are considered very good lakes, and the crores of rupees has been invested on those lakes, and they have created a conventional STPs, and those conventional STPs are constructed in the FTL of the lake, because again we do not have buffer zone. So in those conditions, those STPs are only working from they are not working from the month of June to the month of the November, because they are flooded with the water, because they are under the FTL. Right. So in those cases, nature-based solutions are definitely, I prefer them. Right. But the problem is that you have to variate that what kind of the lake you are working, what is the size of the lake, what is the depth of the lake. And then you have to actually implement that, okay, we do not have the land, to abhi aisa kaam karna padega. So in those conditions, ma'am, the condition in the metro cities is very much different. And if you go a little bit 20 kilometers away from the Hyderabad, definitely you will get still a good amount of the land. Right. So here in the Hyderabad where I'm working, 1 acre is 100 crores.
Okay.
And still I'm alive, fighting with the real estate.
Thank you, Madhulika ji, for your great explanation.
Thank
We'll
you,
have
ma'am.
a
Thank
session
you.
on these things. By the way, just to let you all know, Dr. Leena Singh is an avid researcher, educator, and she is working on the pollution through her research on rivers like Ganga, Yamuna, who are all big, highly polluted since decades. So, any other questions, please? We're almost on the top of the hour, and I also personally need to go to a technical launch of documents on green education run through Green Education Partnership. So I'm pressed for time also. If anybody has a quick question, please shoot it so that we can address and wrap up our meeting.
Yeah, Dr. Prashad Jilani, it's not a question. One of my colleague, Dr. Kakali, they has also joined the program. She's professor in our college, Golgota College of Engineering and Technology. And Dr. Kakali, if you want to share your experience for this program, you are welcome, just in a very brief way. And just she wanted to be introduced to you. So that's why I'm introducing her, sir. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Kakule. Yes, you can unmute yourself, ma'am. Yeah, unmute yourself, ma'am.
I think she is having some difficulty from her end. So we'll take this as a different session very soon, I promise, Dr. Leena. So in the interest of others' time also, they're all busy people.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
We got hold of all the frontline activists, and they are very busy on this day.
I know
so
that. Yes.
we have to excuse us on that. So since you are up, Dr. Kakoli, please
I'm
be
here.
brief in a minute.
Yes. Thank you very much, and wish you all a very happy Environment Day today. I come from a place, actually I was born in the very interior of Nagaland, and I have witnessed for several years there the indigenous knowledge, they used to practice, and with this, coming up with the mainland, today, if I go back as a researcher there, I can see a drastic change where they are living their own indigenous practices, and to a new global kind of practices. So, which is really very disheartening at times. So, as a researcher, I'm a linguist. And I often go to the field to work there and stay with the community. So this is where, I'd like to, join hands with you all, where we can also preserve all these methods and practices, through narratives, we are, so that would be a great way to show the world, and also, document everything, as much as possible. I look forward. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. We have to get this native knowledge into context, and we need to actually build based upon that. Otherwise, we are tinkering with the nature. They have a lot of knowledge also. We have to put into context and not to reinvent the wheel again. So thank you so much for bringing this up, and I appreciate your
Thank you
contribution.
so much. Thank you, Leena ma'am, too. Thank you.
Thank you both. So anybody has any other question?
Can I make
yes.
a couple of quick comments
Sure.
based on what people said? Somebody made a comment about EVs. EVs is not really a solution as long as you charge it on the grid. What a lot of urban people don't actually take into consideration is that when you charge an EV on the grid, all you're doing is transferring the point of pollution from the vehicle to the power plant. And in fact, EVs are more polluting because their well-to-wheel efficiency is only about 18 to 20%, whereas petrol and diesel are in the region of 25 to 30% well-to-wheel efficiencies. So what happens to the farmers? So we did studies around power plants and found that approximately 15% crop yield loss is the average crop yield loss in a 10-kilometer radius around power plants. Now, who's going to compensate for the crores? And we've estimated, for example, around the Ibrahimpatnam power plant, the compensation is, this was done about 7 years back, is about 100 crores. Now, this is not done. So, people tend to forget this aspect. Now, the second thing about lakes, yeah, I was on the Supreme Court committee on the Hussain Sagar Lake 15 years back or so. And there was a subsequent sequel to the whole thing. And more recently, Baburao and I wrote the report on Geo 111. The central problem with the urban lakes is basically that lakes are not recognized for the ecosystem service that they are provided. So, a lake is nothing but land with water on it. And I'll tell you a small story. There was a widow in Hyderabad who wanted some land as per some scheme. And finally, the district collector got fed up and said, okay, give her the land. Woe be her. She went and found that the land was in the middle of Hussain Sagar Lake, because what they did was, they gave her a survey number. The survey number was in the middle of the lake. This is a problem not just in India. In fact, this is a problem. This is a universal problem. It's a worldwide problem that water is not recognized for its several ecosystem services. More recently, of course, the High Court of Madras and Uttarakhand did declare rivers and certain water bodies as living beings, but it didn't sustain itself. So what really is happening in urban areas is two things are happening. One is there is encroachment. The Hussain Sagar was about 20 square kilometers 100 years, 200 years back or so. It's only 4.7 square kilometers today. The other is you pollute it. And in fact, one chief minister in Andhra wanted to fill up the Hussain Sagar and make money. So this dual process of encroachment and polluting the lakes is something that's happening in several cities, including Bangalore and Udaipur and all these places. So until we recognize water as a living being, we're not going to be able to solve this problem. What we did was in the Supreme Court report, we basically said, don't bother to do anything. Just leave the lake alone. See that no pollutant goes in. Don't encroach. It'll fix itself in 10 years' time. You don't have to spend that 400 crores that they have spent and still not cleaned up the lake. It's a zero-sum game. And this is exactly what has happened to the Ganga water, and the cleanup of Ganga and all these things. These are money-making rackets, and we need to get out of this whole paradigm. So we need to say that, listen, we have to think out of the box and not just think of, how to sort out the immediate VOD, COD, and DO problems of these lakes. We have to do something quite different and quite radical and, something quite drastic if we want to save these lakes. Thank you.
That's really nice, sir. One more thing that I want to add, you brought up a nice, thought on lithium ion. I remember our young friend brought it up, but not many people don't know about the lithium hydroxide story. And here is the news. For one ton make of lithium hydroxide, it needs 500,000 gallons of water. So, and once it is in that thing, they may process the used water, but again, it's really hard and energy intensive. And look at the situation of the land over there. That they are gone without that quality of producing anything like crops or other trees, plants. for several decades, and this costs billions of dollars. The euphoria around EVs is great, but again, everything has a limitation. People are not looking at this thing. The developing economies and the rich economies are pushing certain things, not telling the entire story. Same thing with the plastic bottle. We can't even recycle 9% of plastic bottles even today. It is even worse in developing countries. Even in US, it is not happening beyond 7 or 8%, to be honest. So these are all the things that we need to deal with as a society, as individuals, and we need to figure out what we need. And maybe lithium batteries for EVs a temporary good idea, but we need to figure out the long-term solution on all these issues. So maybe bicycling. Bicycling is not only a good option for moving in urban areas, and of course a good exercise, wouldn't cost much money. Of course, we have to mind the environment also. I'm not asking everybody to ride in a summer day or a hot day. So these are also little changes that we could do and design these urban things. Perhaps de-urbanization might be a good way to go, so that we can work closer to our living places and create a new economy in those areas instead of overcrowding the cities. We had an experience with COVID also in recent years about the medical needs when something like of that sort hits us all of a sudden. So I would like to conclude as soon as possible, if you don't mind. So any more questions in the last minute? Dr. Baburao Garu or Mohan sir, would you like to contribute anything?
Well, I think
Yeah,
if
sorry,
there is
let's-
specific
go ahead.
things there with me, I can.
Okay, fine. So, sometime back we wrote in a paper saying that we were just doing theoretical computations on how to reduce energy. This was just loud thinking on several fronts. And one of the things that we said is, if you, in fact, are able to shrink cities by half, then you can save 10% of the total global energy consumption, which today is 14 gigatons of oil equivalent. That's a lot. But then how do you do that? We don't know. We don't know at all. So, a lot of people have been talking about, the whole divide between rural and urban areas must reduce and all these kinds of things. But we're going in exactly the opposite direction right now. We just, our energy expenditure is only increasing. And all we are doing is trying to look for alternatives. The real solution is actually reducing energy consumption and getting into an energy equity regime. No one's prepared to do that today, not today at least. Okay, we've computed that you have to, if we want to become somewhat sustainable, we have to reduce our energy consumption by, or whatever the source be, by approximately 55% as of today. But no one's ready to do that. I mean, every political party anywhere in the world will say, oh, there has to be more development. They don't talk about, actual reduction and degrowth and things of this sort. That's one of the major problems that we have. Much less supposed to they talk about energy equity.
Yes, thank you, sir. Mohan sir?
Yes, sir. Actually, if there is any specific item I can address.
No, I was asking you if you have any thought you could just quickly share so that we can wrap up the meeting. If you don't have anything, let me say a vote of thanks for everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Shall I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Baburao Garu. Thank you, Sagar sir and Madhulika madam. And of course, we missed Rajesh Adla because I thought of bringing that innovation angle and also what is the incredible work he is doing, encouraging everyone to latch on to innovation entrepreneurship for some time and figure out real world solutions. And on behalf, I can tell that he actually mentored 135 startups on this front, and I hope they at least know majority of them would be successful in solving at least Hyderabad region problems. That would be a good beginning for the change. So the next one is our own AI scientist Siddharth Pillai, thank you so much for your interaction. And this event wouldn't happen without the support of the volunteers who had shouldered a lot of burden, on running this event smoothly. So I don't want to get any credit for that. Actually, the volunteers on floor today in helping this event to run smoothly are Rishita J and also Saurabh Kumar. So I would like to acknowledge their hardship in bringing our program today and make it run very smoothly. They're also with Suraksha, one working at the national level, the other one is working at the North India side, and I'm not here without their support also, and for that matter, even without your support. So these things would happen out of goodwill of people, no self-centered people, so on and so forth. So let's bring a change on this World Environment Day, because we have to protect our environment. We need it, and we have to make it work somehow with a lot of patience, little bit money or more money, and wisdom at the core. So I thank you all again for joining me until this late hour. And I know you are very busy with other activities, and I would like to see you again on this forum with different topics, maybe continue as a continuation of the same topic that you all talked about. Let's expand our horizon and make people aware and bring in our brains so that we can solve the problem in real time with a 360 degrees approach, leaving no one behind. Thank you all again for your contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all. Bye-bye.